The Abbasid Caliphate. In the 8th century, in the Middle East, a new dynasty seized power over one of the greatest empires in the world, the Arab Caliphate. The Abbasids, little remembered in the West today, ruled for 5 centuries. Under their leadership began an era of Islamic military supremacy, city building, outstanding scholars, and technological innovation. This period came to be known as the Golden Age of Islam. This is the story of the Abbasid Caliphate. The Abbasid Caliphate flourished during the reign of Caliph Harun al-Rashid. To ensure its continued prosperity, he established an order of succession that, in his view, would guarantee stability and peace. His son Muhammad was to become his heir. However, as was customary since the time of the Umayyads, he appointed another son, Abdullah, as Muhammad's successor. This became a recipe for disaster. In 809 AD, in Baghdad, Muhammad succeeded his father as caliph, taking the title al-Amin, while his half-brother Abdullah became ruler of Khorasan under the title al-Ma'mun. Soon, rival factions emerged around both courts. In Baghdad, al-Amin's advisors persuaded him to remove his brother from the line of succession, and just a year after taking power, he broke their father's agreement. Al-Ma'mun was furious. Brotherly distrust turned into civil war. In 812, al-Ma'mun's forces won a great victory over the much larger army near Ray and advanced to besiege Baghdad. After a bloody siege lasting a full year, the city fell. Caliph al-Amin was captured while trying to escape and executed. Initially, al-Ma'mun ruled the caliphate from his old residence in Merv. Here, seeking to expand his support after the civil war, he forged a new alliance with the Alids, the powerful family descended from Ali, the 4th caliph and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad. They would later become the leaders of Shi'ism, the branch of Islam which believes that true spiritual authority belongs to the descendants of Ali. Instead of the traditional black color of the Abbasids, al-Ma'mun's court began to wear green, identifying itself with the Alids. He even married 2 of his daughters into the Alid family and made the Alid Imam Ali al-Rida his heir. However, this policy provoked hostility in Iraq and led to major uprisings in Baghdad. 6 years later, the caliph moved the capital there to restore order and abandoned his alliance with the Alids. Al-Ma'mun is also remembered for his attempt to impose a new religious doctrine on the caliphate. He first invited prominent scholars to Baghdad to discuss theological questions such as the deeds of the Prophet's companions, the hadiths, and the nature of the Quran. However, his declaration that the Quran had been created by God at some point in time and was not co-eternal with him met fierce resistance. This was followed by 18 years of religious persecution, a period known as the Mihna, or Inquisition, during which dissenting scholars were imprisoned or even executed. In 833, al-Ma'mun was succeeded by his brother, who took the title al-Mu'tasim. He was far less interested in theological debate than in military affairs. The armies of the Abbasid Caliphate, renowned in battle, were composed of both Arab and non-Arab subjects. The Khorasanis, warriors of the frontier province of Khorasan, had been the soldiers who brought the Abbasids to power during the Third Fitna, the civil war in the Muslim world. Drawing on Persian and steppe military traditions, they included both armored infantry and heavy cavalry, comparable to European knights. The descendants of these Khorasanis, settled around Baghdad, were known as Abna al-Khurasan, sons of the people of Khorasan, elite and versatile infantry who formed the loyal core of the caliph's army. Other notable units included the Daylamites, skilled archers from the highlands of northern Persia, and African troops, including slaves and new converts from Ethiopia, who fought as heavy infantry armed with shield, sword, and spear. It is known that the great Caliph Harun al-Rashid had an elite personal guard of 40 African warriors. the Abbasid forces were especially skilled in siege warfare, expertly using mangonels, catapults, and battering rams. They even had special troops armed with fire weapons based on naphtha, or crude oil. No illustrations have survived, but they were likely similar to this slightly later Byzantine depiction. However, in the 9th century, changes occurred so radical that some historians call them a military revolution. During the civil war between Harun's sons, al-Mu'tasim began to expand his army by purchasing Turkic slave soldiers. His favorite supplier was the Samanid family, rulers of Transoxiana. These soldiers, slaves taken as boys from their villages or bought on slave markets, were then sent for intensive military training alongside Islamic education. They became formidable horsemen and excellent mounted archers. The contemporary writer al-Jahiz praised them. "The Turks are unmatched with the spear. If 1,000 of their riders come under a heavy blow, they will loose all their arrows in a single volley and strike down 1,000 enemy horsemen. No army can withstand such a test." Historians debate the exact timing, but at some point in the 9th century, these Turkic soldiers, known as Mamluks, became the elite corps of the Abbasid army, personally loyal to the Caliph and used to intimidate his political rivals. Despite their foreign origin and lack of knowledge of the Arabic language and customs, the Turks gained enormous influence at court. This angered the old nobility, many of whom also stopped receiving their traditional stipends for military service, the Diwan. Discontent even led some soldiers to riot in the streets of Baghdad. To ease the tension, al-Mu'tasim built a new city for the Turkish military elite, Samarra. Here, he stationed the Turkic troops, granted their commanders land, and in 848 began construction of the world's largest mosque and its famous spiral minaret. Al-Mu'tasim's reliance on slave soldiers to secure his power broke centuries-old military traditions and sowed the seeds of future turmoil. 2 years later, the Caliph led his new, fearsome army against the longtime enemy, the Eastern Roman, or Byzantine Empire. The campaign ended in a great victory, the capture and sack of Amorium. The poet Abu Tamam wrote, "You took Amorium with glory, O Caliph, and filled our hearts with hope and joy." But even such triumphs could not ease the growing tension between Turkish commanders and the nobility. Some aristocrats even plotted to depose al-Mu'tasim and expel the Turks. The plot was uncovered, and they were executed. Al-Mu'tasim was succeeded by his elder son, al-Wathiq. However, after his unexpected death, the throne passed to his brother, al-Mutawakkil, who gained power with the support of the Turkish military commanders. They hoped to have a compliant puppet, but instead, al-Mutawakkil decided it was time to restore the authority of the Caliph. By his order, several Turkish leaders were executed, and to counterbalance their influence, he tried to rely on Arab and Armenian troops. But the Turks struck back. In 861, the Caliph was assassinated by his own guards. The ensuing chaos and civil war became known as the Anarchy at Samarra. 4 caliphs took the throne in succession, all of them puppets of the Turkish military elite. Each was, in turn, violently overthrown. Order was restored only with the accession of Caliph al-Muqtamid in 870. But the anarchy had already done irreparable damage to the caliph's prestige. Even before the rise of the Abbasids, the vast caliphate had struggled to maintain control over its many regions. Abbasid authority west of Egypt had long been largely nominal. Now, major uprisings began to break out. Local rulers and generals declared their own claims to power. Egypt, fertile and prosperous, was among the first losses, seized by a rebellious Turkish general who founded his own dynasty, the Tulunids. In southern Iraq, a massive rebellion erupted among enslaved African agricultural workers, known as the Zanj. The revolt lasted 14 years, devastating the region and severely undermining both tax revenues and the food supply of Baghdad. In Afghanistan, a coppersmith named Yaqub al-Safar made a remarkable rise to power, founding his own dynasty, the Safarids, and conquering much of eastern Persia. His advance was halted only by battle in 876. In such turbulent times, the Abbasid caliphs struggled to hold on to their authority. Yet there were also moments of success. Caliph al-Mu'tadid achieved a brief resurgence of Abbasid power through military campaigns and shrewd diplomacy, notably by marrying the daughter of the Tulunid ruler of Egypt, the famous Qatr al-Nada, her name meaning drop of dew. One scholar described her as one of the most intelligent and regal women who ever lived. When al-Mu'tadid told his bride, "You have succeeded by marrying a caliph. For what else can you thank God?" She replied, "You have succeeded. That makes my father your subject. For what else can you thank God?" Her bold answer reflected both her character and the fragile new balance of power between the Abbasid caliphs and their powerful vassals. During the reign of al-Mu'tadid's son al-Muqtafi, Tulunid Egypt was fully reabsorbed into the Abbasid Caliphate. However, in other regions the situation was far less favorable. Abbasid authority collapsed in Arabia, where a Shiite sect known as the Karmatians began attacking pilgrims bound for the holy city of Mecca. In 930, they stole the black stone from the Kaaba, a terrible blow to the Abbasids' prestige. In Central Asia, Persian Samanids built their own empire and declared independence. It was the height of the so-called Iranian Intermezzo, a period when native Persian dynasties once again ruled Persia itself. Increasingly, people said, "The Abbasid Caliph reigns, but does not rule." He became a powerless symbol, often under the control of his vizier. By the 930s, the Caliph had lost authority over civil administration and even command of the army, which was handed to a new office, the Amir al-Umara, or Commander of Commanders. The final collapse came in 945. The Buyids, Shiite warlords from the mountains of Dalim in northwestern Persia, first conquered Fars, then seized control of all Persia and Iraq. Their triumphant entry into Baghdad was a profound humiliation for the Sunni Abbasids. Yet the Buyids retained the Caliph as a ceremonial figurehead. He was now little more than a subordinate of the Buyid emirs, a silent witness to these troubled times. 2 decades later, another Shiite dynasty, the Fatimids, swept across the North African coast, conquered Egypt, and founded Cairo as the capital of their own caliphate. Some historians call this period the Shiite century, when Shiite dynasties ruled 2 rival caliphates and dominated much of the Muslim world. But this would not last. From Central Asia, a new and formidable Sunni power was preparing to burst forth, the Seljuks. The Seljuks were pastoral nomads, herders, and fierce warriors from the Central Asian steppes. They became champions of Sunni Islam in the late 10th century. Possibly driven southward by climate change, they entered Khorasan. The first to fall was the Ghaznavid Empire, successors to the Samanids. The Seljuks were unstoppable. They advanced westward across the Iranian plateau, seized Baghdad, and overthrew the Buyids. They crushed the Byzantine army at Manzikert and established the Seljuk Empire. Their triumph was soon interrupted by the invasion of the European Crusaders, who in 1099 captured Jerusalem and founded several Crusader states. One Shu'ite sect, shrouded in legend, struck a deadly blow against the Seljuks. In 1092, the Seljuk vizier Nizam al-Mulk was assassinated by the Order of Assassins, killers disguised as Sufi mystics. The Assassins, or Hashashin in Arabic, were a new Ismaili military order formed in the mountains of northwestern Persia. Facing powerful enemies but lacking an army of their own, They resorted to secrecy and murder to achieve their goals. Many strange tales are told about the assassins, but the order was real. It was feared, and it was responsible for dozens of political killings. During the following 2 centuries under the Seljuks, the Abbasid caliphs remained spiritual leaders and religious authorities. But in the 12th century, the great Seljuk Empire began to crumble, a familiar story of disputed successions and ambitious local rulers claiming power for themselves. Sensing weakness, in 1136, Caliph al-Muqtafi gathered his own army, determined, for the first time in nearly 200 years, to restore Abbasid independence. He seized control of Baghdad, and in 1157 successfully defended it during a Seljuk siege. After generations of foreign domination, the Abbasids once again became an independent power. But this resurgence would not last. In the 13th century, a new force from the east swept across the Islamic world, scattering armies and destroying every city that refused to surrender. They were the Mongols. The first to fall was the Khwarezmian Empire, heir to the Seljuks, shattered by the unstoppable hordes of Genghis Khan. By 1256, his grandson Hulagu Khan resumed the Mongol advance. But before turning westward, he dealt with the assassins, who, according to rumor, had plotted to kill him. The order was crushed and annihilated. 2 years later, Hulagu marched against the Abbasid Caliphate. When his forces approached Baghdad, he sent Caliph al-Mustasim a stern warning, demanding the city's surrender. Despite the Mongols' terrifying record of destroying every defiant city, al-Mustasim believed that the walls of Baghdad could withstand the steppe warriors. He was wrong. After a disastrous sally in which half the city's garrison was destroyed, Baghdad capitulated. But Hulagu showed no mercy. A contemporary chronicler described the horrors that followed. The people of Baghdad were put to the sword. For 40 days they were slain, robbed and enslaved. They tortured men to reveal their treasures. They killed men, women, and children alike. Much of the city, including the caliph's great mosque, was burned, and Baghdad was reduced to ruins. The dead lay in mounds across the streets and markets. The number of victims is unknown, but it is counted in many tens of thousands. It is said that only the Christians were spared, thanks to the intervention of Hulagu's Christian wife. The great libraries of Baghdad were destroyed. Books and manuscripts representing centuries of Muslim science and scholarship were thrown into the Tigris River, which, people said, turned black with ink. Caliph al-Mustasim himself was forced to witness the destruction. Then, according to some accounts, he was rolled up in a carpet and trampled under the hooves of horses, for the Mongols feared to spill royal blood. The last Abbasid Caliph of Baghdad was dead. Never again would the Abbasids hold real political power. Yet al-Mustasim was not the final member of his line. His descendants survived in the Mamluk Sultanate, which now ruled Egypt. But the Abbasid caliphs of Cairo were mere ceremonial figures, religious leaders without any temporal authority. The very last Abbasid caliph, al-Mutawakkil III, in 1517, surrendered to the Ottoman Empire and was taken as a prisoner to Constantinople. Such was the humiliating fate of a dynasty that had once ruled one of the greatest empires in human history, an empire that had triumphed over the Byzantines in the west and rivaled the Chinese in the east. Under its leadership came a magnificent flowering of science, culture, technology, and trade, an era remembered as the Golden Age of Islam. In the centuries that followed, Muslim rulers across the world claimed their legitimacy by tracing their lineage back to that great dynasty, the Abbasids.